Okay.
Commissioners, your next time certain is 1045 item F7, which is Commissioner Merman's item, a report from Dr. Oliver Massey on the Anti-Bullying Advisory Committee.
Commissioner Merman.
Thank you very much. And members, I really bring this item today to you with so much concern for the children in our community. It's still a headline in the newspaper about bullying, cyberbullying especially. And I think I want to introduce first all the people that are here and really tell you the good work that they're doing, because our anti-bullying effort, our Bully Busters, has really gone through a transformation, and we are getting so much good student involvement. First, I want to introduce Dr. Tom Massey, who's at the podium. He's from the University of South Florida, and he's going to present the item. Regina Baronkov from the Mendez Foundation. Hi, Regina. Kathy James from the Homeless Coalition. Hi, Kathy. I've known Kathy for 20 years, I think, almost, from the legislature back then. Tina Levine from the Florida Department of Juvenile Justice, and Tanley Cabrera from Hillsborough County Schools. Hey, Tanley. He's here to present the Anti-Bullying Advisory Committee activities over the last 3 years, the current status of bullying, and their vision for the future of anti-bullying efforts. I first just want to thank you for all the efforts and to combat bullying here in Hillsborough County. And really, you know, it goes into youth violence eventually during the period you've started to serve on this committee. And the time you've dedicated and the work you've done shows your commitment to the children of Hillsborough County. So thank you.
Thank you. And appreciate the support of the Board of County Commissioners and Commissioner Merman, particularly for your attention to the details and the issues of bullying. And it won't take very much of your time this morning. We just wanted to kind of give you a little bit of background about what we're talking about with bullying and what's been happening in Hillsborough County and perhaps where we'd like to go from here. I'm assuming you have the slides in front of you? And I think we have copies if county commissioners do not have.
It should be in your packet.
That's right.
With the item, but if not, he's going to go through it here and we'll make sure you get it. Rob's got more copies.
Yes. And so really we start with just a simple question of what is bullying. I mean, I think everybody knows pretty much when bullying occurs, you know it when you see it, so to speak. I think where we may disagree is kind of along the edges of what constitutes bullying. I think there are different definitions. Some people are very conservative in what they define as bullying. Other people are very generous in their definitions. Typically, we're talking about ideas where situations where there's an intent to inflict physical or emotional harm on an individual. It occurs repeatedly and over time, and it typically involves an imbalance of power. I don't think you have to have all of those conditions present to make it an act of bullying. However, again, if we have all of those situations, then we can feel pretty comfortable that that is an act of bullying. We have direct verbal attacks, which include bullying. We have direct physical attacks, as obviously bullying. And I think the question, the most troubling aspect is perhaps this notion of indirect or relational attacks. As a matter of fact, cyberbullying is generally considered an indirect or relational attack. And it's a situation where we're not necessarily assaulting an individual or insulting them to face, but rather social ostracism, isolation, and of course, kind of making anonymous attacks on an individual through texting or email or Facebook, include all the kind of relational attacks. As you can see in your packet, obviously bullying is really not this notion of just kind of an innocuous rite of passage. It is a very serious event. And there are very well-known results or sequela of bullying: social phobia, depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, and quite frankly, in the school environment, it is very big concern because we're really talking about kids who literally will not return to school because of the fear of harassment or bullying. Cyberbullying is a relatively new event. It was on the landscape 15 years ago, obviously. What research is out there suggests that cyberbullying is actually does do more damage to children and youth than traditional bullying, as a matter of fact. We have one slide here talking about bullying in Hillsborough County. There's nothing unique about this data. This is fairly consistent across national surveys. I've done research of my own that pretty much corresponds to this. Literally, we have about a third of youth experiencing bullying on a fairly regular basis. I have studies of my own that show 30% experience bullying on a daily basis. This particular study was conducted here in Hillsborough County, and roughly 35% of students experienced some form of bullying within the last 30 days. I think a more troubling idea is that research also suggests that most students do not get any form of bullying prevention in the classroom. So while we know there's a problem, we have not always been very good about kind of addressing that problem through prevention or early intervention efforts. And as Commissioner Merman mentioned, the county has been very responsive, and we certainly appreciate that. The Bully Busters Youth Council and the Public Awareness Campaign have gone on in 2009, 2010. Since that time, the Bully Busters Youth Council has transitioned into the school district with the Students Against Violence Everywhere programs, the SAVE programs. I think, I'm not sure if I have the exact number, but I believe there's 13, can somebody correct me? 13 SAVE? 16 SAVE programs. Whoop.
It went up.
It went up. It goes up every day. 23 SAVE programs. And resources purchased by the Hillsborough County were used to provide the curriculum and materials for these SAVE programs. The school district has worked with the Anti-Bullying Advisory Committee and with members of the county to produce and staff this process. We expect this will continue to evolve. There's also a number of programs. The Too Good for Violence and Too Good for Drugs programs are in the school district. The Olveus anti-bullying program is also in the school district. Besides efforts in the school districts, we also have had a number of elements. The newspaper and education insert, you may have seen that. That was from about 6 months ago. We had National Bullying Prevention Month. And something that you may not be aware of, the Hillsborough County Library Services, there was a subset of funds sent over to the libraries to purchase books, workbooks and DVDs, and they were put in kind of a presentation in the library so students and youth would have an opportunity to see those resources. I think all this is very positive. I mean, there's been a lot going on. I think it's all positive. As a committee, we feel like it's important to think about what we can do in the future. There's no magic here. We just kind of tried to decide to divide this into training and information dissemination, prevention and intervention services, and policy and research. Some of these, we'd like to ask your support in these efforts. I don't know that many of these necessarily require a huge investment of resources. For training and information dissemination, public services announcements, and annual training opportunities are not things that are necessarily going to require a lot of cost, but I think it's very important. Part of the issue is that bullying is, for lack of a better term, kind of a low but constant problem. It's kind of a chronic problem. It's not necessarily always hitting the newspaper, but it's always there. We can provide public service announcements to families, to kids, to parents, but obviously those parents, we have new families moving in, the kids grow up, they go off to college, so we have a whole new crop that we really need to educate and inform about what bullying is and how we should address it. Even with county employees and with the school district, we have, I think it's 16,000 teachers in the school district. many, many county employees. Obviously, you have people retiring, you have new hires. So some continuity in training is an opportunity to ensure that what we know now isn't lost 3 years from now. With regards to prevention and intervention, there are evidence-based programs available, both in prevention and early intervention, and intervention for instances where bullying or harassment is more serious. We really need those programs in place in the community and in the schools. As I mentioned earlier, the school does have several active programs, the Old Vegas program, the Too Good for Drugs program, the SAVE groups. Those work. It's not in all of the schools. Obviously, there's some expense associated with that. And we really need also outreach to support parents. I think parents don't always understand how serious bullying can be. They don't always understand how they can react if there's an instance of bullying. I wasn't sure if you saw this morning's paper. I was kind of hoping you might not have. But there's right now a proposal at the state level to deal with cyberbullying. And it is a particularly difficult issue because cyberbullying kind of falls in the cracks with regards to who's responsible and how it should be addressed. Schools do an excellent job, I think. This is me personally speaking, but I've worked with the school district for quite a while. They do a very good job of addressing bullying, of identifying policies, identifying intervention when it happens on the school grounds, and so that they're able to deal with that. We have sheriff and police representatives on the committee. They are very able to deal with bullying when it's a crime. If there's a crime that's been committed, if it rises to that level, they're very able to address that. But cyberbullying is one of those gray areas. If it happens off school grounds, if it's an act of harassment, if it is an act of teasing or ostracism or isolation that happens through Facebook, it's very difficult for either the police or the schools to know how to intervene or to have the resources to appropriately intervene. So we have to have some process of dealing with that. The proposed legislation, and I'm not really familiar with it. It came out this morning, so if it had come out 2 weeks ago or tomorrow, I'd be in good shape. But today, this morning, I'm not in a position to really know a lot about what's being proposed. But that idea is to try to address cyberbullying in policies and procedures, and as I understand it, at the school level, which is obviously somewhat troublesome. With regards to policy and research, I think it's important to know what goes on. We do have some incidence and prevalence information being collected through the 211 and through, shoot, I'm blocking on the name of it.
I'll tell you.
Yeah, the webpage.
Okay.
Excuse me, I'm blocking on the name, but there is there are several processes to report bullying, and they work. However, we need to understand how often it occurs, the changing face of what kind of bullying happens, and what we should do. In terms of investigating the use of prevention and intervention services, we should know what's effective for our community. Even the best evidence-based program has to be implemented within the community and within the specific needs of the community. And finally, we wanted a periodic review of current reporting mechanisms to make sure we are identifying bullying when it occurs and are able to address it in a timely fashion. I believe that may be the last slide. Yeah.
It is. Nice picture at the end.
Right. If you have questions, ask these guys.
Looks like all 7 of us when we can't make up our minds.
That's right. That's right. But I appreciate your time, and if you have any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Massey. I think where you were coming to, if I could read between the lines, is that you want us to look at our partnership with the schools and see what more we can do about providing materials and different things like that. You know, because 23 schools is not enough. We need to be in every school. And we've had really no funding for this for a long time. I mean, I think we probably are not talking more than $5,000 or $10,000. But I would like to, I mean, I'll make a motion to direct staff to just work with the school system, come back to us with what your needs are, and you know, work with the administration to see, you know, what direction we really want to take this to get more exposure in the schools and be a real good partner with the schools. Commissioner Beckner.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Commissioner Merman, for staying on top of this and bringing this forward. I'll happily second your motion, and actually would have just had another thought that I'll put out another motion, as Dr. Massey was mentioning the article today in the newspaper and what legislation is doing. And it got me to thinking, because I know there's controversy when things happen in the school, it seems definable, but when it happens offside the school grounds, it seems like that becomes into grayer territory of what we can do. I'd like to vote on your motion, and then I'll put forward another concept that perhaps we can also take a look at as well, too.
Okay. Okay, there's a motion on, oh, I'm Commissioner Miller. Oh, Commissioner Higgins back.
Okay.
I made a
Okay,
motion.
a motion by Commissioner Merman, second Commissioner Beckner.
Beckner.
Please record your vote.
Motion carried, 7-0.
And the thought that I had, you know, you mentioned Tallahassee, and this commission has gotten used to looking at larger scope issues that impact our community, where Tallahassee is due to act, but at the end they failed to act. And I have watched Tallahassee on this issue fail to really protect our citizens. Many issues that have come concerning bullying have come for several years, and recently, you know, some of them have been addressed, but so many have been left unaddressed. And so what I would like staff to look at is to follow the bills that are being put forward around cyberbullying. And what I would like, and make a motion to staff monitor those bills and then come back to us after session and advise us if there's anything else that we can do. If Tallahassee fails to act, or this legislation is not comprehensive enough to protect the children and individuals from bullying in our community, I would like staff to give us recommendations of what we can do here locally to further protect our children and citizens from this issue of bullying.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Beckner, second Commissioner Merman. No comments. Please record your vote.
Motion carried, 7-0.
Thank you, Dr. Massey. Thanks, group. You're doing great work.
Thank you.
Thank you for the
It's
presentation.
invaluable.